So I'm here to talk about Copilot adoption. It doesn't really matter where you've been in the past year. If you haven't heard AI or Copilot mentioned, I'd be really surprised. If you go to InfoSec this year, and it's the first time I've been for a while, every single stand was the same. Look at our AI. Look how it works for you. Well, that's great, but how do you know it's working for you? How do you actually implement it? How are you going to get it to work in your environment? So I'm talking about how we can make sure that this works for you, how you onboard the AI system that you want to do. I'm also going to try and pull us back on time. This is going to be a challenge. So, why is onboarding important? Well, when you're bringing in something new, you need to understand how that's going to affect everything that you do, how it's going to affect the people who are going to use it. They need to make sure that they can use it, so it's really good. We need to tell users what is coming and why. We're no longer going to be using Outlook for email, we're going to be using something completely different. And we're doing it because we're going to make it more secure. And that's going to help you in your job. Now, the chances are that's never going to happen. But if you tell the users what's coming and why, they will at least be interested in it, and hopefully they'll go with you. We need to remove this FUD. Oh, lovely word, isn't it? Fear, uncertainty, doubt. This AI is coming in, I will be out of a job by next week. What's it going to take away from me? Why on earth would we want to have AI instead of a real person doing the work? So we've got to have that there. And that's going to help us to build trust. Make sure that we're reducing the resistance. We just heard that the attackers will find a way around everything we put in place because they're quite clever. And quite often, we, as specialists, make the mistake of thinking our users are actually a bit dim. You try and put something in that they don't like. Watch how quickly they work round it, because they will. We need to do the same with AI. We need to make sure it's working with them and for them and doing it properly. And it's going to make sure that we make the integration smoother, so it becomes something that people do naturally and the way they can actually move things forward. So, first thing is, what are we putting in AI for? What's it going to do? I mean, this is a real question. People are jumping onto a bandwagon of AI on the basis that, well, everybody else is. But if you don't know quite what it's going to do, how are you going to measure it? How are you going to know if it's been successful? How are you going to actually track whether users are actually making any use of it? And it needs to be personalised. My use for AI will not be the same as Sarah's. I'm a geek, I'm a techie. I want it to write code for me. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Sarah, on the other hand, wants marketing details. She wants to see people who attend events like this. What do they do next? What do they do as the follow-up? How good is our callbacks? It's a totally different view, but yet it's still AI. And AI can be a lot of things. So we need to make sure that that AI is actually assisting what we do. It's not just sitting there as a tool in the back end that, well, occasionally somebody might plug something in. We need to support it. How do you support AI? Well, actually, a bit of education doesn't go amiss. So I have Copilot. It's great. It does lots of stuff for me. And I got asked, fairly late on, to do this presentation on onboarding AI. So I go to Copilot and say, can you give me a presentation on onboarding AI into an organisation? It's going to save me a lot of time. It's going to write the whole thing for me. No, it didn't. It gave me a presentation on how AI could improve the onboarding of new staff. It just didn't understand at all because I'd worded the question wrong. Well, I thought I'd worded it wrong. Actually, it turns out that AI didn't understand the question at all. But people have to know how to ask the question and how that's actually going to give them a response that's useful. And you need to make sure that you're ready to improve this as you're going forward. What's the feedback you're getting from the user? This code it's writing is rubbish. Okay, in which case maybe we need to give it a bit more information on how to write the code. It's produced a presentation, but actually it's used Greek. And I'm sorry, but we mostly use English here, so can you help me out here? So we need to make sure that we're actually reviewing this and getting it better, getting it to do what we need to do. And you need to measure how effective it is. What is the point of adding in all of this machine learning, this AI, if it now takes you 4 hours to write a document that used to take you 30 minutes? Where's the saving? Where's the benefit? Now, if it's coming down to, it's allowed me to create a new document by reusing a lot of stuff that has been written before and saved me 5 hours of work, that's great. But you've got to be able to measure this. What's the effectiveness of the AI that you've deployed? And review, and tailor. And if it needs more language behind it, well, give it more. Give it more to understand. Feed it. Sounds very much like some kind of animal that we need to keep going. We need to make sure that we've got surveys in place to ask your users what they think. If they don't like it and they don't use it, why are you paying for it? So please, let's make sure that they are using it and it is doing what they need it to do so that we can work our way forward. Best practice. How many people here have got best practice for authentication services? Yeah, it's quite easy. You know what best practice is because we've been authenticating for, well, passwords got invented in the 1960s, so 50 years. How about best practice for device management? Again, we've been doing device management for 20 years, 30 years, since anybody remembers System Center and System Center Config Manager, Intune, ZenWorks, lots of stuff. Best practice for email. Yeah, Exchange has been around a while, GroupWise, CC Mail, DaVinci Mail, whatever it's been around forever. Best practices for AI. Not really been defined yet. We know some things that should be there, but we're not in a position yet where it has enough lifespan for us to know exactly what to do. But we can make sure that the data privacy and security is right. What we don't want to happen is for one of your users to put into AI a request like, can you please tell me the salaries of all of the exec? And it goes off and finds that all these salaries are actually in a document, in a SharePoint site, that the user has been granted access to by mistake. Because AI will actually show the user the salaries of the exec. So make sure that your security and privacy is in place properly, which involves making sure that your users have access to the right data. The stuff that they need to work on needs to be available to them, not the stuff they don't need. Brings me back to the fact that security, most people think security is about keeping the bad people out. That's not true. Security is about letting the right people in, and because you're letting the right people in, it keeps the bad people out. If you think about it, that's actually what happens every time. If you create this in a way that lets the right people in to your SharePoint site, to your document library, to your applications, to your network, well, by default, you're keeping the attackers away. So make sure that your security is in place and it's doing the right thing. Put the governance in place. Just because somebody had access to that file 3 months ago does not mean they should still have access to it. That project finished. The team was disbanded. Who got rid of the group? Anybody here ever raise a service request to delete a team? To delete a group? Okay, we've got 2 people who I'd say deserve a gold star. Most of us don't do it. We'll raise a request for a new provision, but nothing ever gets done with taking away the old ones, which we need to do. We need to provide continual training. Now, that doesn't mean sending everybody on a 3-day training course on how to do AI. But it does mean sending them hints on a regular basis. Have you tried asking this sort of question? Have you had problems with getting this information out and helping them? The same way that you do your cyber security training, your anti-phishing training, and all the rest of it, it's continual because we're always facing the new things. Well, with AI, we need to make sure that we're continually improving the language model, which means we're continually improving the way the user interacts with it. Keep them on track. And be open about it. If your AI isn't doing exactly what you want and you have to turn bits of it off, that's fine. Just tell people. Be open about what it's going to do. This is not going to replace you in your work. This is going to make it so that you can produce your documents in half the time so that the managers can give us twice as much work to do. Maybe not. But it's actually going to allow people time to think, and that really is key.